And we are live. Okay, perfect. Kia ora tato. Welcome to another Q&A here at Digital Boost. I'm Georgia Hatzis, your host. I am so excited today to have Kristy Campbell with us from Pink Pony Creative. I tracked Kristy down because all of you really wanted to learn about TikTok. You wanted to learn about Instagram. We love marketing at Digital Boost. We really, really do. And I found sweet, amazing Kristy living just down the road from me in Oriwa. And I dragged her in. And she is offering her time and her expertise to us today. And we're going to be talking about cracking the code, Instagram and TikTok strategies for today's competitive market. If you have any questions, you can pop them into the Q&A. I will field those, but we're going to wait until the very end of this presentation. So let's see if your questions are answered. You can also populate them in, throughout, and I'll ask them at the end. So we're going to wait until the end for those questions. I'll be checking on Facebook and LinkedIn and on YouTube. So ask Kristy anything. She's here. Welcome, Kristy. Thank you so much for
Hello.
coming.
No, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm super excited about this session. I've got a lot to talk to you about today. The biggest thing before I get into it is that I want you to understand is you can apply this both to Instagram and TikTok, but I've got a bunch of stuff that I'm going to walk through anyway. I'm just going to jump straight into it. That's all right.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, great. Cool. So I want you guys to picture this. So I'm starting a new business and I'm selling you this couch. It's a beautiful velvet Italian-made couch. Would you buy it? Maybe. I want to try a different approach. You come home after a long day, you open the front door and you sink into the soft, comfy velvet couch, feeling the stress of the day melt away off you. Your partner walks in the room and you both enjoy movie and popcorn, relaxing and unwinding. Would you buy it now? I mean, personally, I probably would be more likely to. But did you see that difference? The first approach is just about the product. But the second approach, I'm connecting with your emotions. It paints a picture about how this couch can transform your living space and enhance your life. It's not just about the couch, it's about the experience, the comfort, and the joy that it brings. And this is exactly what I'm going to teach you guys today. So hello guys, my name is Kristy Campbell. I would describe myself as a confident self-doubter. I'm a lover of life, wife, and a parent to a dog called Vegas and a cat called Mittens. My strength is waking up at 4:30 a.m. and my weakness is wanting more coffee at 4:30 p.m. I'm the founder of a design studio called Pink Pony Creative, where I have a team of 6 who refer to themselves as the ponies. Our superpower is brand synergy, crafting seamless and unforgettable visual identities for businesses all over the world. We punch through your market with strong, bold, daring, and unique logos, color palettes, packaging, and graphics. So when I started my business 4 years ago in 2020, I actually started it as a 100-day design challenge. So I started this 2020 because I was bored in my old job and I wanted to upskill and learn some new techniques and skills. And I used Instagram to keep myself accountable and post every day on the platform. So from then, I started to get a few inquiries. And eventually I thought I could actually make this a business. And so from that time up until now, I've managed to grow an audience on Instagram and TikTok, and I've managed to secure some awesome opportunities through social media. And I'm going to show you how you guys can do the same today. So we're going to crack the code through working through these 3 pillars. We have strategize and align, create and captivate, and we're going to share some rapid insights and actions. So if you do these 3 pillars and understand the lessons that I'm going to teach you, you'll be one step further towards cracking the code on Instagram and TikTok. So before we get into the real good stuff, I just want to talk about one thing, and that is understanding the power of social media. And I want you to understand this because you can understand the potential and the opportunity before we even jump into the strategic advice and the lessons. So if I was running my business 20 years ago, things would be entirely different and far less exciting. The fact is, with the internet and with social media, we become location neutral. And this is really important. Whatever the business you have, even if you're location-based, where you work with clients in your area, you can still grab more opportunity through social media by becoming location neutral. So we want to step out and take that risk. The size of your market is literally unlimited, and we need to remember this. So with my social media journey, I've managed to secure all of these opportunities. I'm now an international speaker. I speak at conferences for Adobe. I've worked with some incredible brands overseas. I've traveled multiple times to do different speaking sessions. But the thing is, I wouldn't have done any of this without social media. And even 4 years ago, I would never have dreamed of having these experiences ever. I thought the peak of my career would be client work and design. I just want to tell you a little story about the reach of the internet and its potential. So throughout my time of social media, I've started posting what we call passion projects, which is where I simply share a design that I've created for fun. It's not a real project, it's just something for fun. And I shared this project of McDonald's. If it was a luxury brand, what would that look like? And you know who replied? Was McDonald's. They said, I'm loving it. And I said, I love your cheeseburgers. But this just shows the reach of the internet and the possibility of it. So before we get into any of this, we need to understand the reach of the internet and really grasp it and really hold on to it. All right, so first key thing that we need to do when we're thinking about our Instagram and social media strategies and our content is understanding your audience. Now, if you have a small business, this should be something that you've already invested a little bit of time in and started to understand. But one of the biggest things I think we should remember with our audience and understanding them is we can know so much before we get going, but we can also learn along the way and start to understand them more. Because as we grow as a business, I'd be surprised if your audience didn't grow. With your business changing and developing, your audience will most likely change and develop. So you need to continue to update things and learn as you grow. So we can identify your target audience, which is the sort of the basics, the age, the gender, the location, the income level, all of that good stuff. And then as well, on top of that, we need to use social media analytics. This is really key as well. So even if you've shared a bunch of posts, reels, whatever it might be, you can use that information to then help you further down the track. One of the best bit of analytics I learned from is actually the best time for your audience to post. So for me, it's 4:30 in the morning, which sounds crazy, but it's because most of my audience is actually overseas. So I post at 4:30 in the morning, and I do it naturally on my phone because I get up so early. So when we're doing this, the other thing we can do to continue to learn and understand our audience is engage with our audience. So we want to make sure we're responding to comments, messages, and reviews to build those relationships and gather feedback. When we're building a social media platform, we're actually building a community. Don't think about it as it's just a platform. We're trying to build a community around your brand. So we want to ask them what they want to see from us, ask them their comments, their messages, what they like, what they don't like. You can do this in comments, you can do this in messages, direct messages, or even email. You could even send out a bit of a customer questionnaire. So the next thing that I want you to do is understand and analyze your competitors and your audiences. So with these, what I want you to do is actually go out and find a bunch of people and brands that you really aspire to be like. So for me, in my case, as a graphic designer, I want to go out and follow a whole bunch of graphic designers who not only maybe have an agency themselves, maybe they're a freelancer, or maybe they do things that I want to do in my future. So you can go out and make a big list of these people, follow them, and start really interacting with all of their content and following them on tightly. So when it comes to these inspirational accounts, what I want you guys to do is write a list. So let's say in this example, Made by James, he's actually a UK-based designer with a really big audience. Luckily now, I've met him a few times, actually a friend of mine. But looking at his content, I aspire to his content. I want to do what he does. He does a really good job of it. So I've gone through his Instagram page or social media or TikTok, whatever it might be, find those most viewed videos and actually just write down what they're about. So in this case, we've got how big should your mascot logo be? That had 4 million views. How do you balance multiple components of a logo? That had 1 million views. And you can start to make a big list of these types of content. And then you can take that, understand the sort of repeated types of content, and then do it yourself. But you're probably thinking, I'm afraid of copying them. I'm afraid of copying these people because obviously you love what they do and you want to do it in your own way. So with this in mind, although don't want to copy people directly, that is definitely not what we want to do. We want to make it our own. We want to take an idea that we see on social media and turn it into our own. I'm going to show you a video that really describes this, but I just want you to know with this video, the sound can be really quiet. So if you turn your volume right up, I can also share the link to this afterwards as well, just so we can review it. But I'm going to share this video for you all. Hopefully we can hear it. It's about a minute long. So if you can't hear it, apologies, and I'll just continue.
Everyone already doing so much videos, and there's just so many similar videos going out. How would you, I want to say, how would you do it to be more creative and not follow trends to stand out?
Are you posting at all?
That's where I'm struggling with.
Why don't you just follow trends?
Because I don't want to copy. I think a lot of agents here feel the same way. It's not just the fear.
So let me understand. Because you don't want to copy, you're just going to let everybody else get the business?
Oh,
Yeah, true. Okay.
I have a better idea. Why don't you copy and get some of the business?
But how would you stand out?
You stand out because you're wearing a pink dress.
Okay.
You have to understand, you as a human being are already standing out because you're a different human being. You might say one word differently.
So hopefully that was helpful. I think it's a really great video. He talks about how to stand out, because doing it yourself, you're already going to be doing something differently to everybody else.
well, and I do want to say, Kristy, not to cut you off, but
No, go for it.
It's an Oscar Wilde quote. It's talent borrows. No, what is it? Talent borrows, genius steals. So it's like you can be quite talented and just borrow things, but a genius will come in and steal from another person, and then you make it your own, right?
Exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
100%. So you can do the same with your content creation and your social media work. So just a quick note as well, that guy who was talking on the stage is a guy called Gary V, and he does an incredible job on social media. I highly recommend you all following him because he does have great little motivational mindset things around social media and little tips and tricks as well. And they're really bite-sized. So he's really awesome to follow. All right. So I want you to understand your audience and follow accounts that you aspire to be like, that inspire you. And if you do this, you'll be one step further towards cracking the code. So now on to the good, juicy stuff, which is all about how we actually create that content for social media. What do we actually post, essentially? So I want to take you back to the example from the beginning of the couches, right? So we have on one hand, the couch I just sold you that was just beautiful, a beautiful Italian-made couch. But then on the right here, I've sold you an experience. I've sold you an emotional connection. So we've been sold the feeling rather than being sold the product itself. And this is really key when it comes to social media content creation. And this could be for so many platforms: Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Pinterest. Sell a feeling rather than being sold the product. So there's a reason why big companies like GoPro and Apple, this is their Instagram pages, they don't show their product. You look at all of these images, they're not selling their product. The only one is GoPro, and this is pinned at the very top. So essentially, they're selling the result. They're selling the feeling that these products can give you. So we need to do the same for our own businesses. So providing value is key. And in doing so, we need to understand why providing value is key. Something I like to keep in mind here, and this is a really good little tip for everybody, is we want to provide value in our social media content. So this is your everyday content that you see on TikTok or Instagram. And then when we're doing call to action, so this is, buy now, buy my product, that's more promotional. We can use that in social media ads. So this is in Meta, whatever it might be, your Facebook ads, your Instagram ads that you actually pay to go out to more people. All right, here's the really good stuff. So when it comes to social media content creation and strategies, there's so many different ways we can do this, but this is just a way that I like to break it down. And I know a lot of people do it in this way, and it's a really engaging and just easy way to follow. So when we're thinking about this, we have 4 pillars. We've got educational, inspirational, entertaining, and promotional. Promotional is an interesting one, which I'll talk about right at the end. So with all of these content pillars, we can actually use this information to create all of our content for our Instagram and our social media, TikTok, etc. So as a business, you'll typically pick 3. You could pick all 4 of these to create content under. Oh, I'm going next. So let's start with educational, and feel free to take a screenshot of this because it's full of information. So we want to identify a common problem in your industry. And to do this, we can use tools like Answer the Public as a web address that you can use to get a whole bunch of questions that are commonly asked in Google even. So for example, with Answer the Public, I think it's .com, if you simply go in their website and type in the word, for me, say logo design, it'll showcase all of the questions that are commonly asked and searched for logo design. It could be things such as, what kind of colors should I use in my logo? And then you can literally take that question and create a video out of it or some content out of it, because this is a commonly asked thing in your industry. So we want to do that and create an example of, how to, and then solve a problem. So this is educational. We're teaching people something about your industry or your business. And we can provide step-to-step solutions for them as well. So, step 1, step 2, step 3. How do we break this down into actionable steps? The next pillar is inspirational. So with inspirational, this is you can talk very much about your story, how you got to where you are as a business, as a brand owner, and even intertwine some of your personal story and the challenges that you've had to overcome throughout this. So for example, you can start with a relatable quote or a story. So use a quote or a personal story that your audience can relate to and connect with your audience. As people, we actually connect with people over businesses more. But why? And it's because we find them more relatable. So if you can intertwine a story about your business that's more inspirational, you're going to actually connect with your audience more. You can also be aspirational, so share and relate a story or a common goal, but you can also provide encouragement and tips, so offer motivational advice or tips. The next one is entertaining. So now with this entertaining one, this is an interesting one, because I'm not saying to go out and all be entertaining in your business on social media, because a lot of businesses, that won't really tie into what their target audience wants to see. So this can be a little bit more challenging. Say if you're a law firm, you might not want to go down the entertaining content. So when we're thinking about this, we can actually take popular trends that we see on socials, do your research, search through socials, and also turn it into our own trends. So with this style of content, I actually play on a bit of a spin in my office, and I get my team involved, and we do, funny things that maybe clients have said to us, or like common situations that we find ourselves in when we're creating a logo that are a little bit funny. And we can also add a unique twist on them. And then the last pillar here is promotional. As I mentioned earlier, we don't want to sell our product, but we can still be promotional without selling our product. So in this case, we can showcase the product or service by introducing it, but we can also showcase it by highlighting the key features and the benefits of it. So say you're selling a hairbrush. What are the key features of that hairbrush? It could be, feature 1, 2, 3, and then can we turn that into content and create videos or posts about it? The other one that can work really nicely here is including testimonials or reviews. So with testimonials, it can be even better if it comes from the customer themselves. Why do they love the product or the service? So something else that we can do on top of all of our content pillars is storytelling. So in essence, when I'm creating a video for social media, whether it's TikTok or Instagram, whatever kind of platform I'm on, I'm wanting to tell a story. And to do this, we can break it down into 3 acts. So essentially, alongside your business, you almost become a bit of in the film industry, you're creating a story, creating a bit of a theme throughout that. So Act 1, you want to set the scene. And I'm going to give you an example on how we do this in a minute as well. Act 2 is identify the problem. And then Act 3 is share the resolution. So say we're a boutique clothing store and we actually want to sell white shirt and jeans, because that's something that you've got new in, and we just want to sell the basics. How do we do this without actually just simply selling the product? So Act 1, we want to go back and think, setting the scene. It's a summer's day and you have a limited wardrobe. Showcase how you set that scene. Act 2 is identifying the problem. For this, you don't know how to style the white shirt and jeans. You only know one way you can wear your white shirt and jeans. But then Act 3, the resolution, you can showcase 3 ways to style your simple white shirt and jeans and actually show them on video. So I'm not selling the product, but I'm selling the result of the product. I'm giving the customer an experience. Something also that I just want to touch on here is that although what you might think, say you're an accountant, you sort of think to yourself, why would anyone want to know how to be an accountant? If I was going to do educational style content and I was sharing something about my world of my industry, why would anyone else want to learn that? You'd be thinking, I'm not going to be targeting the client at that point. I'll be targeting other accountants. And there's 2 ways and 2 sides why this is so important and so incredible. And I'm just going to talk about why and what this did for me when I started sharing educational content. So back in 2020, when TikTok really boomed, I started scrolling online because it was COVID, of course, and I was finding there was lots of bakers and like so many different industries that were sharing tutorials. So the bakers were sharing how to bake a cake or how to ice a cake. And I thought I could actually do this for my own business, how to create a logo, how to use Adobe Illustrator, which is a popular tool that we all use as designers. And by sharing these little tidbits of how to do your whatever it is in your industry, you're actually pitching yourself as an expert. You're no longer just someone who's doing the work. You are actually an expert because you're teaching people how to do it. So I had a client, I've had many clients find me on social media through this. One of them is a guy called Evan in America. He owns a crafting company, and he found a video where I was teaching design work. And he said, I wasn't interested in the result. He saw my video and thought, wow, if she can teach like she does on social media with tutorials about design, imagine what she could do when she actually does the work for me. So stop limiting yourself to the idea that we just have to sell the product. If you can even pitch yourself as an expert of what you do, you'll be able to grow your audience and get more clients. So essentially, we want to share value and don't sell. Create that share-worthy content, and you'll be one step further towards cracking the code. All right, so I just want you to consider this. This is where we're tying in your personal brand into your business. And I know a lot of you are solo business owners where it's just you within the business, but you can also do this if you have a team. So I want you to consider that every business is fundamentally rooted in someone's personal brand. It all starts with an idea that resonates because of that person behind it and their life experiences. So we have to be what everybody says we have to be, and we have to appear on social media as authentic when we're thinking about our business. But I just want to touch on this because what is being authentic? We can't just wake up one day and be authentic and share it on social media. There is no actual rule book for that. So there's something that I learned from a guy, Kristy in America, who has an awesome strategy about even just how to understand our authentic self a little bit more so we can work through this. And by doing this, we can actually tie in our authentic self with our social media content to be far more relatable. So I want you to do 2 things. How you want to write a small list about how others perceive you. So in my case, some people might say that I'm confident, I'm bubbly, and I'm a bit of a go-getter. And then I want you to write down what others don't know about you. For me, I would say people don't realize that I have a lot of self-doubt. I struggle with imposter syndrome, like we all do, and I'm a bit of a people pleaser. So we have these 2 lists. But if we can pair and transform them into something more compelling, we're making a much more relatable and interesting persona. We're creating that multidimensional persona. So for me, I'm now a confident self-doubter. I'm no longer just confident. I'm a confident self-doubter, which actually puts me in a position where you're going to relate to me even more. So with this, when we're creating our social media content, if we do this and intertwine those 2 ideas, we can now create something more relatable. A quick example, if I was sharing and announcing that I was going to be flying internationally and actually doing a new speaking gig, I can say, hey, look, I've got this new speaking gig. I'm so excited, but I'm actually quite terrified of getting on stage, but I do it anyway because I know the kind of result it's going to be in the end. So by doing that, you're becoming far more relatable. just to touch on quickly a little story about this man right here, Robbie Williams. So I'm not sure if you guys have watched his documentary. It's on Netflix. I highly recommend. But in his documentary, they really highlighted that he had massive imposter syndrome and self-doubt. And I didn't realize he did throughout his whole career. It was really bad. But throughout him doing so and sharing this with the world, I now feel far more relatable to Robbie Williams. I now have this emotional connection with him, which I didn't have before, because I'm looking at him thinking, if he can do it, so can I. And now I remember him, and he's even at my speech. So I want you to understand that your past influences your story and your audience's emotional reaction. So we want to create that vulnerable character, connect with ourselves, and you'll be one step further towards cracking the code on socials. So there's just a really great quote that really ties in with all of this from a guy called Rob Brown. If I don't buy from you, I won't buy everything else that stands behind you. According to Accenture, 65% of consumers say that a brand's CEO and employees influence their decision to buy. Along with the fact 81% of customers stated they need to trust the brand to buy from them. So essentially, how do we actually build this trust and share on social media? So this is a really interesting one. And hopefully you'll bring in this into your content, thinking about all of those content pillars and become more trustworthy. So I believe trust is actually built off a reputation, which is a product of two main factors. This is knowledge and skills, which we all have in what we do. This is what we're really good at, multiplied by your network and your resources, with vulnerability serving as that key ingredient that fosters that genuine connection and trust. So in essence, the equation is this. So with vulnerability serving is the ability to invite people into your world. And if you can start to do this on social media with your business, you'll build that trust and that relatability. So once you've laid the groundwork for your reputation, the next step is to embrace that vulnerability, which will strengthen your relatability, marketing yourself through emotions, and creating something that resonates with your audience. Someone who does a really good job at this, I'm going to bring this girl into the game, is good old Taylor Swift. And you're probably thinking, she's obviously top tier level, very hard to reach, but we can still take what we learn from her and put it into our own businesses. So where she's built her reputation is obviously through her singing, her songwriting, playing musical instruments, and then her network and resources is associating herself with managers, artists, singers, actors, and other brands. But where she's really allowed and accelerated is the ability to bring people in her world. It's allowing herself to be vulnerable. So this is Taylor Swift's world right here. So her songs are written on her lived experiences that people resonate with all over the world. She actually includes hidden Easter eggs and messages in her marketing and her visuals and her music videos, offering that intimate glimpse into her life to her audience. And now when her audience actually attends her shows, they actually wear what she wears, transforming themselves into glittery, over-the-top, playful looks, allowing them to be completely part of her brand. So she goes beyond just mere fandom, and she actively involves her audiences in her creative process, hosting events and exclusive listening experiences for her fans. And this level of engagement creates that sense of belonging and immersion in her brand. And we can do this as well. We can achieve brand immersion, maybe not right to her level, but we can do it. Whatever the business it is, you can actually build online communities. It could be Facebook groups that we talk Q&A style, share information with each other. We help each other. We could host events for our industry, our business. And we could even sell our processes if we get to that point, which I do. I sell my design processes online, which is a passive income opportunity and stream that I never thought I would have. So without social media, that would have never happened. But the key is we've got to find out what resonates with you and your audience and actually go beyond simply just what you do. And you can do this with social media. So we want to market ourselves through emotion to allow our audience to connect with us on a deeper level and have complete brand immersion. All right, the last one here before we get into the quickfire tips and tricks is something that I just want to talk about, which is a little bit airy-fairy, and I know not everyone likes to hear this, but we have to be consistent. So social media is a long-term game, and we have to understand that. I talk to so many people who have wanted to grow their audience or wanted to build more engagement. And I say to them, how many times have you been posting and how long? And they're like, oh, it's 6 months. That is nowhere near enough time to build an audience and grow that strong community. We've got to be consistent. And this is basically the secret sauce to do it. It does not happen overnight. I know people who have taken 10 years to grow their audience. I know people who have taken 6 months, and they are just a special breed, I have to say. So you can do it. But the key is to post consistently, whatever that looks like. So in my case, I've posted 3 times a week for 4 years. I've probably missed 3 weeks total because I was traveling, I was getting married, doing all these things. But you have to be consistent in order to build your audience. So this is on Instagram and TikTok. And I'm going to talk to you about how I do this in a minute. But in essence, I want you to know as well that consistency doesn't have to be 3 times a week. Whatever that number is, you just have to do it over and over again. So posting 3 times could also look like posting 2 times a week, or maybe it's posting 1 time a week. I do recommend the sweet spot is really 3 times. For me, I post Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And that's kind of a sweet spot for everybody. But, you know, depending on whatever it is for you, what you can make doable, I would post consistently for that time. So we've just got to understand that consistency is key, and we'll be one step further towards cracking the code on social media. All right. So when it comes to Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, all the above, there is so many social media platforms, and it is overwhelming to think of how can we actually spread all our videos or our content across all of these. So if you were a solo business owner, I would highly recommend just picking 2 and sticking with that. Find what works for you, find what you enjoy, and then follow through with it. Because if you don't enjoy it, it can be such a big amount of work for something that you aren't even interested in whatsoever. You could even hire people as well to do this, which I do recommend if you are struggling to create the content yourself. So one of the things that I do, and people have different views about this, but I'm a big believer in repurposing your content. Whatever you post on Instagram, if you have the time, just post it on TikTok, post it on Pinterest, post it on YouTube Shorts, post it wherever you can. For me, I really focus on Instagram and TikTok. So I typically create my video on Instagram and then I repost it and share it on TikTok. Same content. You don't have to overthink it. Don't overthink the content. Just share it across the platforms, because essentially, if you're doing so, you're actually just sharing it to more eyes, across the world. So to do this is a really good little key tip for everybody. How do we actually repurpose that content and share that same video that we created on Instagram to TikTok? You can scan this QR code and it will take you to a website, which I think is called vidinsta.app. But basically, all you need is your Instagram link, if you're lazy like me, and that'll be able to, you paste it into the website. It'll download the video and you can actually just upload it straight into TikTok and use the same caption. Essentially, there's a lot of people that say in doing this, it can actually affect your engagement on TikTok because you're not editing it in the platform. And yes, this is a thing, but again, if you're time poor and this is just something you have to do with social media, it's better to actually just put something out there and get it up and running rather than just not doing it at all. So I really recommend trialing this and just sharing it across both platforms. When we're creating our videos, the best way to create a video is actually just developing it externally and then putting it into Instagram or TikTok and uploading your captions and writing those all individually. So a couple of programs that I use and would recommend is one called Adobe Rush. Now, Adobe Rush is fantastic because it is not a complex bit of software. It's something that I, hand on heart, can say everyone can jump on board, learn, and understand. I think it costs about $34 a month if you have the money to invest in it for that program, but it's worth it. And then as well, underneath that, 2 programs that I think are free for most people is Adobe Express and Canva, and they have some awesome video editing software in there. But I do recommend doing it in these platforms or in a platform like this, because then at least you can create the content, you have the original video, you can share it multiple times across different platforms, but you can also upload it. And then if it's sitting in your drafts, and for some reason, if Instagram decides to delete the drafts, you've still got that original clipping of the video. So I really do recommend that. So we want to make sure we just repurpose our content across platforms, especially like all of us are, we're all time poor. Doing this, it's better to get more eyes on it than none at all. And don't overthink it. Don't think that the content needs to be different. I know people that post the same thing over LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and it does incredibly well. All right. Some quick fire tips to finish up, and then we can do a bit of a Q&A if there's any questions. So hashtags. I know everyone thinks we need hashtags. I typically do about 5 on every post, just because I think we should still do some, but we don't need 30. One of the things as well that we all get confused about is unique hashtags. If you're hashtagging your business with a unique hashtag, don't do it. It's not worth it, because essentially those common hashtags get better results. Think about it. If someone's going to search for design work to, become a client, they're probably going to search on Instagram logo design in the hashtags. They're not going to go ahead and search pink pony creative. Although I might have hashtag it, there's no point in the hashtag even being there. Use common hashtags. This could be things like your industry, what you actually do, the services you offer. Maybe it's social media marketing, social media strategy, social media agency. Those type of hashtags are key. The next one is trending songs. They can work, but focus on the storytelling content. Don't be sold on the fact that the trending song is going to make you go viral. It's not about that. It's about the storytelling content. Another one is time limits. Try not to go over 60 seconds on Instagram. Try and keep it 35 seconds at max. Potentially can go over a little bit if you're really trying to tell a story. And this can really help with content, because we are so consumed with so much these days. People just flick through. It's really nice to get short, sweet videos. Another one is scheduling posts and videos. I find using scheduling tools like Later is one that people commonly use, can actually harm engagement. Again, this is a little bit challenging, because then you're having to go in and scheduling it manually every day when you post. But try and do it manually, because it does help your engagement. One piece of advice that I do recommend, this is more of a quote, is one for the algorithm and one for you. And this is about your social media content. So when we're thinking about that, we can create one that could be trending that you see. Even if you don't really find that you enjoy creating that content, create it for the algorithm. And then we create a video or a piece of content for us. What do you enjoy posting? Because at the end of the day, if we don't actually enjoy it at all, it's going to be a really real struggle to create. And the last piece of advice I have here in the quick fire tips is actually something similar to what we spoke about before, but it's repurposing your content. Share old videos that do well, or old posts. If you have one post or one reel or video that you, for some reason, got more engagement than the others, a few months down the track or a year down the track, reshare it and use that same QR code that I just shared before, where you just take that URL, copy it, put it in the website, and download that video again and reshare it. So there was one time where I reshared a post of mine. Well, it was actually a video. I shared it. I got a pretty substantial amount of views. I think it was at 400,000 views. And then about a year later, I hadn't prepared any content for that week. I think I was traveling and I was really desperately needing some content. So I found that video, thought it did pretty well, and I repurposed it and reshared it. The same content, exactly the same caption and everything. When I reshared it, it's now my most viewed video. It's sitting at 7 million views, I think. So you're repurposing that content can work. I wouldn't say do it all the time, but just bring back old videos. If you're finding you're busy with your life, you've got other things to focus on, you can repurpose your content. And lastly, just before we finish up, before the questions, I just want to talk about your mindset around social media. This is huge, because I talk to so many people that have this mindset around social media. Things like, I'm too scared about what people will say about me. I'm scared that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm scared that I don't know what to post. How do I do all this and get on social media? You are the only thing that is causing you this pain. It's your mindset. You've just got to push through and do it. Just start, regardless of what that looks like. Don't think too much about it. I've got a few quotes that will really resonate with you here. These are my favorite quotes. I think we should all think about this in the way of social media. The first one is, you're far too smart to be the only thing standing in your own way. All of those little things you were just talking about before. I'm too scared to post. I'm scared of what people might think of me. That is you standing in your own way. Just do it. Be brave. Get yourself out there. The next one, which ties in nicely, is opportunities dance with those on the dance floor. If you're not out there doing it, you're not going to get the opportunity, regardless of what it looks like. Put yourself out there. Another one is you'll never get anywhere if you don't embarrass yourself a little bit. You have to embarrass yourself to get out there and do it. If you guys look at my Instagram videos, I'm almost part-time actor now because I'm just putting myself out there. But I ignore what people say. Yes, I get a little bit tied up sometimes, depending on what they say. But the more I've posted, the more comments and negative comments I get, the more I actually think it does not matter. I can do this. The opportunity outweighs the negative for sure. And then the last one is stop telling yourself you're not qualified enough. Growth happens when you start doing the things you're not qualified to do. So just get out there and do it. Just a couple of little 3 accounts that if you guys could all follow, these are great accounts just in terms of inspiration when it comes to social media content. I'm not saying these businesses will be anything like yours, but the way that they create their content for and sell their service or their product is amazing. The one that I think you should 100% all follow and follow along is this guy. He basically shares his normal life going to his normal job, which is just, I think, an accounting job. He's sitting at his desk, but his content is crazy good in the way of it's not interesting. You know, his life is this typical life, but the way he shares it is relatable. So if you follow these, they're fantastic, inspirational accounts that hopefully you'll learn something from. So if we do all of the above, there's a bit of a roundup and a bit of a conclusion. We've got to strategize and align with don't underestimate the reach of the internet. Understand your audience and follow accounts that inspire you. We want to create and captivate, share value, don't sell, create your vulnerable character, market yourself through emotion, and understand that consistency is key. And then the last one is just the rapid insights and action. Understand and repurpose your content across platforms. If you could do all of these things and understand those lessons, you'll be one step further towards cracking the code. So do we have any questions?
We sure do, Kristy. This is amazing. Thank you so much for this presentation. I was like jotting down notes the whole time. Yeah, we do have a couple of questions and some of them did pop up as you were probably answering them. I will ask them again anyway. But the first one is, how do you find current trends on social media?
So great question. You've got to do your research, and this is going to feel weird because you're going to essentially be on Instagram, on TikTok, scrolling. And although, you know, sometimes we get down the track of scrolling through and looking at these videos, it's actually research. So don't narrow yourself to, you know, only your industry either. Look at all of this content and understand that a lot of the stuff that they do, you can actually do for yourself. The perfect example for me is I followed a lot of makeup artists because the way that they designed and created their videos, it would be very much the before and then the after of their makeup, you know, all of, you know, the result. And I loved what they did in terms of the way they transitioned. It could be the song that they used. And a lot of those videos trend, like they come on the trending videos, the trending audios, all that stuff. So then I took what I learned from them and created my own videos. So what does the logo look like before? And then what does it look like after that you've worked with me? So essentially, I just applied all of that knowledge into my own way. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Next question. What are you using to create your videos? All right, this is a longer one. So we'll start with, what are you using to create your videos? Your phone and editing through CapCut, for example, or are you using a higher quality camera and using some other platform to edit? Are you also sharing the same video on each platform, which we did discuss, or do you create something different for each platform? Yeah, we did talk about repurposing.
Yeah, I literally share the same thing across both Instagram and TikTok because I am time poor and I would like to do different videos across them just to potentially trial a few things. But like I said, I'm time poor and that is the best way that I can make it work. I take everything on my iPhone. I think I have an iPhone 13 Max, I think. And then I actually edit it in a program called Adobe Premiere Pro, which is a very hard out editing software. So I wouldn't recommend that for people who don't know much about video editing. But the software that I said before, it was Adobe Rush. and also Canva and these ones, and Adobe Express can be really helpful. Adobe Rush is great. I'm not sure if we all probably knew iMovie back in the day. I don't even know if they still have it. Essentially, Adobe Rush is iMovie, but Adobe products. So I really do recommend that. And you can do that on your desktop as well, because one thing I find is apps like CapCut is quite challenging on your phone because you're having to edit in a really small space. But if you can actually get it on your desktop, it's really nice and easier to edit. I mean, for a Mac person who loves Mac and Apple, I just airdrop my videos from my phone onto my laptop. But I know that there's a lot of people probably out there with PCs and things, so that could be a little bit challenging. I don't know if there's airdrop on Android.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. For repurposing content, some platforms don't match the size and alignments, and then it doesn't look good. Do you have any advice for that?
Yeah, so typically with video, most platforms should have portrait video, which is essentially the same on Instagram and TikTok. Pinterest is now the same again. So you can actually do what we spoke about before with repurposing, download your video from Instagram. You can actually share that essentially the exact thing on Pinterest. It'll have that platform, that size. When it comes to posts, this is a little bit different because I know with things like Instagram posts, the static content, and then LinkedIn, it should be able to be repurposed across. I am just trying to think of a couple of other platforms that wouldn't have the same size recommendations, but a lot of them are similar. I would suggest if it's a post, you could resize it in something like Canva or Adobe Express. You somehow, in doing all this, you learn about video editing, you learn about some design to be able to create those posts and those videos. So it'll just be a matter of learning the software. YouTube is fantastic. I've learned so much on YouTube for so many different things. So I would just, if you have a problem that you're struggling with Canva, maybe how to edit a video, just YouTube it. It'll come out with the answer, I promise.
I know, isn't it funny how we can find so many things on YouTube?
I know, so much, so much.
What is the reason scheduling doesn't, so the scheduling apps don't help your reach? I love scheduling apps. They help so much. They save so much time for me.
Yes. There's multiple people that will have different views on this. So many social media managers will schedule and share, which again is great if you're time poor. I'm not entirely sure of the reason why I think that scheduling harms engagement. That's something I've just literally heard through social media videos and just in the industry. I think it just is a little bit less, you're pushing it through another third-party software. So essentially it's not going directly from Instagram or TikTok. So I think that's why it can harm it. But again, I'm not entirely sure. You might find it works great for you. So do what works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would also suggest, not being the expert here, but I would suggest play around with it. So if you have a scheduling app that you've been scheduling through, maybe do it manually for, I don't know, a month, 3 times a week for a month, and then see how much engagement you get, see what shifts for you,
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. I have a lot of ideas and scripts for videos and skits, but I don't know how to edit it. When I do try to edit it, it doesn't come out how I imagine, and it takes ages. Do you have any advice?
I do. With social media, especially with video, you have to understand that it takes a long time. I just posted a video today, and it took me about 6 hours on Friday. It is not an easy thing to do, but you have to be committed to the long-term effects of what social media can do. I have to consistently remind myself that this is all worth it because of the opportunities I get. It is frustrating. It is time-consuming. It is hard to do, but it's the opportunities that are so worth it. And this could be like in anyone's industry. It doesn't matter what you do. You really don't know the opportunities that could come your way. But in terms of like advice generally on editing and things, I would start small in a way where maybe there's a video that is just 10 seconds long. Use programs like Adobe Rush. Try and get yourself used to those. I think editing is hard on your phone because of just the small space you're working with. So having that larger desktop space is always easier. And I think as well, when it comes and you're sort of talking about it doesn't come out how I imagine it, post it. I know it sounds ridiculous, but you just have to keep learning and upskilling. Post it, and then the next time you'll learn a little bit more. You're going to learn 1% more every time. So you just have to keep going and keep practicing and keep learning. But it is hard, and it does take a long time. You could hire a video editor. There's a lot out there that I'm sure could also help along. But again, sometimes it's not the best thing either, because it also doesn't come out how you envision it as well.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting what you said about just post it. I think we wait too long trying to make everything perfect, and we're not getting our information out there. And I think once you figure out your, I guess, formula, right, what you're creating. And as Kristy said, like, you'll learn a little bit something extra, you'll learn a little bit something extra. It'll get easier and easier. You're like, this is the formula. This is how I create it. Just post. That's great advice.
Hard to do. Sometimes I close my eyes and just push it.
Any recommendations for a tool that can post across multiple social media platforms? If it's free, that would be good.
Oh, I don't know. If only. I think, again, like that, maybe that's something that'll come. I know Facebook's, I think it's called Facebook Creator Studio, is a scheduling platform that can allow you to post through Facebook and Instagram, because essentially they're owned by the same company. But I don't know of a platform that you can post across multiple social media platforms, for the reason being, I'm sure that they're not owned all by the same company or by the same people. And I think as well, that would probably also harm engagement, because you're going through that third-party app to then post through everything else. I think it would affect it.
Yeah. We have a comment here. Thank you, Kristy. This was very helpful, although I still think I have a long way to go.
Oh, fair enough. To be honest, I was a little bit worried this content might have been not, what's the word? Maybe I needed a little bit more, like, very much tips and tricks, but hopefully you took something away from it anyway, in terms of the content creation and what to post and just the ideas behind that. But essentially, like, the biggest thing I could really say is really look at those people you are inspired by. Look at those accounts, take those content ideas and make it your own, because that has helped me immensely. And you're then not having to create the initial idea, but you're creating something that someone else is essentially, the idea that they've done, and then making it your own yourself too.
Great. Thank you. Trending songs. What about copyright? I didn't think you can use popular songs for commercial purpose.
Good question. So actually, that's a fantastic question, because all of my social media accounts are actually, they're not business social media accounts. I don't know if this is a bad thing to say, but I know on business accounts, if you set your social media account to a business account, you cannot use trending songs. I've just set it as, I think it could be I can't remember, like the public one or the personal brand even. I don't know if this is a little hack, but I'm just going to see if I can see. But yeah, you can't use the commercial music for those businesses, also for those accounts, because you're right, they won't let you use it for copywriting purposes. So essentially, just look into what kind of account you're using. I don't know if that was
Kristy,
helpful information.
I've noticed that some business accounts actually post trending songs, but it's not the song. It says original audio or something. I don't know how they do that. Like,
they're probably actually using, in a similar way, some of those other websites that I mentioned before, where you can take the URL of a video and actually download it. So they're downloading that audio and then creating the video in a third-party app, maybe Adobe Rush or something, and actually inserting the song while they edit it. And then when they bring that into, say, TikTok, it's thinking that you're bringing in an original sound, but it's actually some sound that someone else has already created. But I know with TikTok now, if it recognizes that, it will mute the video, so it actually doesn't let you do it. Which can be tricky. But yeah, I don't like on the business accounts that you can't use trending or like fun upbeat songs that everybody knows.
Yeah,
which is why I've got mine set to those different accounts.
That's helpful. Thank you. What is your mix of video versus static content? Like 60-40, 70-30?
Oh, honestly, probably 3% of my content is static. Most of my content is video, only for the reason being I was getting the best results through video. So I just essentially decided I was going to do mostly video. But again, this is so different for everybody. I don't think it should be the same for everybody. Some static content can work so good on some accounts. So just do what works for you. And like video content can take a long time. So again, if you're really time poor, maybe do one piece of video a week and maybe 2 static posts if you can.
Wow, we've got, you guys are blowing up my Q&A.
I know there's lots here actually.
Lots here, yeah. What if you schedule through Meta Business Suite?
Yeah, again, like I've actually never done that. I've always done it organically and like manually through my own on the app in my hand sort of way. Again, like it's dependent on you, and people have so many different views about this. I know social media managers who schedule everything manually, which I can't even imagine the kind of work that would involve. But then some of them also use scheduling apps like the Meta Business Suite. So you could definitely do that. Again, try and error, a couple of weeks or maybe 1 month, do it all through Meta Business Suite, and then the next month do it manually through your app and see the kind of results you get. You might be surprised. Maybe Meta Business Suite is amazing for you and does better.
Yeah, there's some comments here. We use Hootsuite for posting across socials. Adobe Rush lets you post to multiple platforms. Metricool allows cross-posting. Yeah, these are great
questions. I think as well, like with programs like Adobe Rush, what I tend to do, and even Premiere Pro, I edit the video with no text, and then I bring it into Instagram, for example, and add all of my wording from Instagram, because I think, by using those little effects in Instagram actually tells the app you're using it more. So like you're using the Instagram associated effects. So then Instagram is going to recognize that. And it's like, oh yeah, she's using Instagram, like type and captions. Let's share her video out to more people. Again, this is essentially what I've learned. And I know so many people have different views on this, but this is just, my advice.
Yeah. Sue, I love this. I love this question. So I'm a Gen Xer too.
Love it. Love it.
I'm a Gen Xer. Would it be better to hire someone younger to do Insta and TikTok videos? They seem to have a better grasp of the lingo and what grabs attention. My audience is mostly 30s and under.
I would say if your audience is under 30s and 30s and under, I would say it could be great to get someone who's younger to do it. But you could find someone, if your audience is someone in their 50s, it would actually be quite good to hire someone who potentially is closer to that age range, who has video editing experience. The reason why I also think actually regardless, hiring someone younger can be great is because a younger generation can tend to grab onto the faster trending or changing social media algorithms, platforms, whatever it might be. They'll just grab onto those changes a little bit quicker. And that's what we need to remember with social media. It's forever changing. So if we can jump onto those changes quickly and follow through with them, you'll have more chance, I think, of being successful, because you'll go with the times, you'll go with the change rather than being left behind. Yeah.
Yeah. Get those young whippersnappers in there, Sue. Not us.
That's the one.
Old analog people. On Instagram, how do you decide when to post a story, a reel, or a post?
Ooh, I almost do it in a way where a story is more daily content, where it's more like random, so a bit ad hoc. It could be things like, maybe you could even set yourself a little goal. One on a Wednesday, I know one girl does this really great. She does a work with me Wednesday on her stories. And so she'll take everybody what her day looks like, going to get a coffee, going to the gym. And although it seems a little bit mundane to you, trust me when I say we're all very intrigued by everyone else's life, no matter what it is and what it looks like. It will be interesting to someone out there. So stories are a little bit more ad hoc, unique. You can do even like things where you interact with your audience, ask polls, ask questions, or even announcements are great on stories, where maybe you've got a new employee in a way. And then for things like a reel or a post, essentially a reel and a post can look very different in terms of the type of content you provide. Although I might make a video on how to make a logo, I could actually use that in a post as well in static content. It's just about how do I take this idea of how to make a logo into video content, and then how do I make it into static content. So essentially I would look at those very similar. Yeah.
Awesome. Some great comments in here.
It is some really good ones. Great questions, guys. Putting me to the test.
Yeah. And also just people saying totally amazing, really helpful. Thank you. Thanks a lot. You are awesome. I love that. I like your quote of selling the experience rather than a product. That is
big one.
Huge takeaway. And Sonia was saying mine is a business account and an artist. So that's why copyright is big in my thinking. Thanks, Kristy. This has been very valuable. How far out are you planning your content? Do you do lots on the fly?
Oh, great question. Should I show you guys something quickly? I think this will. So I use something called, I'm just going to pull it up before so I don't share all my secrets. Where is it? I use a platform called Notion. And if you don't know much about Notion, it can basically do anything. Like, it's pretty incredible. I'll just quickly show everybody this. So essentially, this is how I plan my content. I've made this Notion board. I've broken my businesses down into 3 segments because there's sort of 3 different brands that I work with within my business now. Essentially, this is my calendar that I work with. This is actually in April, but I actually do it all on a Friday for the next week. So, the 17th of May, which a couple of weeks ago, I have a sort of sheet where I then have my caption. I've got my, where I store the information and a bit of a brainstorming, the accounts that it goes off into. But essentially, I have basically, this is all the information for one post. And then you can see here, this is for one post, but I'll plan it for the next week. So I have the Monday post, the Wednesday post, and then the Friday post. And this is great because I can actually easily move them, shifting it across. If you want to know more about Notion, happy to talk about it. Message me on Instagram. But essentially, I just, on that Friday, I'll add new sort of little Notion boards, we call them. And then essentially I just write the ideas, write the caption for the next week. And I actually film it all on that Friday too. So for this Friday, I'm preparing everything from the scripts, the videos, etc. for the next week. But I mean, throughout the week, I always have ideas, or I'll see something that I really like. So actually, at the bottom of my social media calendar here, I just have a whole lot of sort of inspiration that I quite like, just random notes. I've seen this video, all of this kind of information that I get, and I just write down ideas, basically. So Notion's fantastic. I really recommend it. There is a free version of Notion, but it's very mobile. You can do a lot with it. So.
And I believe we are going to be doing a Q&A on Notion
there you go.
later in the year. So keep an eye out for that. I don't remember the exact date. It might be in September or October. Just a heads up, everyone. Okay. How are you feeling about AI? And I realize we're going over. You're okay?
Yeah, no, I'm cool. I love the questions.
Yeah, so do I. I'm digging how engaged you all are. So thank you. How are you feeling about AI as a graphic designer? Do you embrace any of it?
I love this question. I love it for multiple reasons. People get heated over AI. I actually had a bad experience with sharing a video last week about my view on it. And I had people send me some ruthlessly awful messages, basically bullying me about AI. But anyway, my thoughts about AI is that I am a big believer in that is where we're going. We are literally going down the route of AI. If we don't harness it now, we will get left behind. It was last year, I was lucky enough to be in the testing phase of a program called Adobe Firefly, which creates image from text, and it's an Adobe platform. And I was lucky enough to be in the testing of all of it. So no, it wasn't released. We, got to see all of it and test it. And there was someone who asked the same question: isn't this going to replace what we do? And the Adobe team actually said this really amazing answer that I always refer back to. So one of them was there when Photoshop was launched many years ago, I think early 2000s or early 90s. And when Photoshop launched, the world was like, this is going to ruin the lives of photographers. Essentially it's taking what we do, it's essentially changing images. Now you can, manipulate what you actually take the photo of. But if you look at where Photoshop has taken us, it's essentially supported everything we do. Photographers wouldn't live without it now. I think AI is going to be the exact same. You still have to have a creative mind to be able to use these products, processes, even things like generating an image from text. You still have to understand and creatively think about it. So essentially everyone thinks, oh, I can do that. You create the same image or do what you do in AI. But I really don't think it's a lot harder than people think it is. So I do recommend embracing it, learning it, making sure you stay up to date with it, because it's the only way we are heading. And in all honesty, we've been using AI for years. We just haven't had the name of it. We haven't been saying this is AI. Photoshop has so many tools that have, for the last 20 years, been using AI. We've just not called it that. So now everyone's like, AI. So recommend embracing it, go on board, get used to it.
I love that. I mean, we love AI at Digital Boost, and we love, like you said, learning how to manipulate it for us, using it as a tool, not letting it just be what it is. So I think it's
100%.
fantastic. Yeah. Let's see. Thanks, Kristy. Really appreciate your time and expertise. Thank you, Bridget. Taking images of workspaces are one area I'm interested in, but we have discussions on clean space or messy spaces. I get hung up on what is in the background. Does it really influence viewers?
Good question.
That's a great question.
Yeah. So I would say it, again, don't think too much about it, but it probably does depend on your business and what you offer. If you're a cleaning business, you want a clean space. It really depends on the company and like what you do and your services and what you offer. I would say for me, it does affect, like I do think it affects your videos and the way that you can come across. I would say try and keep things relatively clean and tidy. But then again, it's funny because when I take my videos, some of the content that's done really well has been like me in the office where there's a lot going on, and there's like things all over the show. There's photos, videos, etc. everywhere. So one thing I can say here, which I think everyone could do. So I actually haven't done it today. With most work things, and you'll see this in social media, most of my videos, I am wearing pink, and I don't actually wear pink that much. But essentially think about your video and what's in it in a way where you can brand it. So for a long time, I didn't have this office space where we've got pink walls and a giant pink horse in the office. So it wasn't branded. But in all of my videos, I started wearing pink. And essentially, I'm just pushing my brand one step further. So you can do that simple thing for your brand. Maybe your brand color is orange. You could even put an orange vase in the background. All of those little things can actually then make your feed look cohesive, or people will see that, recognize the color and be like, oh, that's that brand. I know that brand. So yeah, think about what's in it rather than being hung up on it being really messy, if that makes sense.
Where'd you get your neon sign and the big pink pony?
The pony, yeah, the big pink pony. If you didn't see it, here he is. He's sitting in our window of our office. The neon sign was actually gifted to me by a company called Neon Designs. I don't know if they're actually still around, but the pony, I actually got him from Facebook Marketplace of all places. When I opened the office, I was like, I have a vision. I want a giant pink horse, but I have no idea where I'm going to find one. And then I looked on Facebook Marketplace, and this guy was selling, he was black. So he was just matte black beforehand. And then I took him to a professional, like an automobile painter, like people who paint cars. And I was like, I have a funny request. Can you paint this big horse pink? And they're like, yes. And they did it. And it's amazing. It's great for content. So it's awesome.
I love it. It is really good. And that's the thing when you're talking about branding, you're getting really specific about branding. And that's, it's interesting. I was listening the whole Taylor Swift part where you were talking about, getting really specific and these Easter eggs that she drops and how you make your social media really creative for people who are super time poor and people who are not as creative as let's say you are. I heard you mention something about selling some digital content. You've got digital content that you sell online or to help people with digital content. Is that right?
Yes, it's actually more specifically catered to designers. So if you're a designer, I sell sort of InDesign templates on how we present our brand proposals and how we present our logos to clients. So essentially, they're templates for designers. But I know there's a lot of social media managers out there who actually sell content creation tools, for example, like that, where you can learn and like download them. And although, you know, it's a cost that maybe people are like, oh, I don't really want to spend the money, it can be worth it. So I'd, even for all of you guys, go and search up social media managers that seem to have some, you know, that you quite like. And I'm sure a lot of them that have bigger platforms will sell their thought processes and their knowledge. That's what people do. You know, people tend to build audiences and then start to sell their processes, because effectively it's great money to be honest. And it's also, you're teaching people about what you know. So it's a really cool thing to do and build your community. So I recommend that. I think that's a really nice way. The other platform that can be really helpful is Skillshare. It's I think it's about $250 a year. So somewhat, if you could say, expensive, but it is worth it. They've got lots of really easy to follow tutorials about social media management, even things like design, Canva, Skillshare. I would recommend that, or just having a look into that.
Great. And for people who are watching the recording or watching this live stream later, and they want to have questions, they have questions they want to answer. Okay, Georgia needs
we all get
more
like
coffee. More coffee. I want to know, if I'm watching this, how do I get in touch with you if I have a question for you, Kristy? Is it best to reach out to you on Instagram or your email? What's the easiest way for us to get in touch with you?
Instagram would be best. So this is my Kristy.thepinkpony is my sort of personal design brand. I also have the Pink Pony Creative on Instagram and TikTok as the more like agency style content. So could also message me there, but this would be the best. Definitely flick me a message. Happy to answer anything. Love connecting with new people as well. It's always great.
This was fantastic. And we've gone over, it's 11:11, my favorite numbers. I adore you, Kristy. I adore all of you who show up every week to learn more about your businesses and to really learn how to thrive and grow. And I am going to release everybody. I'm going to let you all go back out into the ether, into your real lives. Kristy, so great to have you. Thank you so much. Thank you. If you need anything from me, reach out.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching.
Love you guys. We'll talk to you soon. See you later.